Hey everybody, it's Kuya from PigAsfinity.com, and I'm here to answer one simple question. What is going on with Windwalker in 8.1? What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the traits, and I'm going to discuss my thoughts on the traits, and then I'm going to talk about the baseline changes that are coming, give my thoughts on those, talent changes, and then give my thoughts on those, and finally a final thoughts of where I think the spec is going to be in 8.1. So, without further ado, let's get started. Windwalker has 3 new traits in 8.1. The first being Furious Wind. Furious Wind makes your combo strikes grant a 3% stacking chance for your next Fist of Fury to grant haste and invoke Zwen the White Tiger for 8 seconds. This buff lasts 20 seconds and is not consumed if you do not proc it with Fist of Fury. Next up is Dance of Chi-Ji. Dance of Chi-Ji makes it so that when you spend Chi, you have a chance to make your next spinning crane kick free and deal bonus damage. This is a 15-second proc, and it has 2 proc per minute. Last trait, which is not available for testing on the PTR currently, is Glory of the Dawn. Rising Sun Kick gets a 25% chance to trigger a second time, dealing physical damage and restoring 1 Chi. As I said, this trait is not available for testing, but it seems like a fun trait. Get the double hit. Rising Sun Kick back again. But let me just get my thoughts on these traits. I think these traits, let's start off with Furious Wind. Furious Wind is probably the one I've tested the most, and I think it's the overall most fun trait to use that we've gotten. So from my results of what I've done, on average you're not going to get a proc of this on your first Fist of Fury that you cast, but in every subsequent Fist of Fury, in my experience, I've gotten a proc. Now on fights like you see here, this is the King Rastakhan fight in the next raid, Battle of Zara Lore. It was extremely strong, and it basically just turns Zwen into this crazy damage. Like, it becomes like your #1 damage, his Tiger Lightning. And it further emphasizes the fact of how weak baseline Windwalker is. And yeah, that part's not great, but it is a really fun trait because you just get constant damage, you get constant Zwens, and the haste is actually very noticeable. Now, a few notes about this trait is that currently, during Storm, Earth, and Fire, it's generating 3 stacks of the buff instead of 1, which could lead to some cheese where you're just constantly doing CJL, Crackling Jade Lightning, and then canceling it to get 3 stacks really fast. That isn't great. And apparently there's been a bug with Meridian Strikes that's similar to this, where your spirits also proc that for extra cooldown reduction. Hopefully they get this sorted out for 8.1. Otherwise, it could lead to some degenerate stuff. But as it stands now, it's actually a really fun trait. As you'll see here, I'll proc it, and it's just you have 2 Zwens up at a time. So like if you use Zwen and then you get a proc, you get 2 Zwens up at a time. So you see here on the screen, I have 2 Zwens up. And I'm just doing crazy damage. The 4 target cleave is just unreal with this trait, but it's all Tiger Lightning. It's carrying you. But I'll move on to Dance of Chi-Ji here. I think I've talked enough about Furious Wind. Dance of Chi-Ji is underwhelming, I would say. It's a trait that boosts your AoE damage pretty significantly. When you do get a proc of Dance of Chi-Ji, it increases the damage that Spinning Crane Kick does by an astronomical amount. Now currently I want to note that this is bugged on the PTR, where it's only buffing the first hit of Spinning Crane Kick rather than the whole ability damage. So you get like 15k 30 crits with a proc. That's kind of, you get a 30k crit, 15k normal hit with it. It's just the problem with it, the trait in my opinion, is that since it doesn't proc that often, it kind of leads to like this situation where like you may get a proc and it's just totally not useful at all at that time, and that's not a great feeling. You're sitting there and it's just terrible. So I really would like them to decrease the proc per minute of this trait, but like maybe decrease the damage of some kind, because I'd rather have the proc more often and have it like a choice to use it rather than like not having it at all. But yeah, those are the 2 traits I tested. Glory of the Dawn is not available for testing, but I imagine it'll be pretty good. We'll move on to baseline changes here. So Windwalker got some baseline changes in 8.1. So first off, Touch of Death now does 35% of your max health instead of 50. Touch of Karma now redirects 70% of your max of the damage absorbed, rather than 100%. And the Windwalker aura was buffed by 4%, which is about a 5.47% damage buff. Now, in the latest beta build, they increased this a little bit to around, I think, 21%. So it's like we're getting these slight damage buffs over the course of time. Basically, the idea here that they're trying to make, these are the changes that were made. Let me talk about them here. The whole idea here is that they want to shift the damage from our cooldowns, mainly Touch of Death and Touch of Karma. They want to shift that damage to the baseline Windwalker, which I think is a really good idea. Because baseline Windwalker is pretty weak, I would say, overall. And it's very noticeable with the new traits. Because whenever we get a really good trait, that trait tends to just make its way to the top of our overall damage. So removing the damage from Touch of Death and Karma and then buffing us baseline is overall a good direction to go and a good change. The problem is currently with the tuning they have, and obviously tuning isn't complete. The tuning they have, we're actually weaker on 8.1 in 8.1 than we are on live servers right now. And that isn't a great thing to have as a class that really isn't considered top tier. But I'm hoping that they iron this out and give us more aura increases as the PTR progresses. We're just, I don't know, we're in a weird spot. These baseline changes are good. I think you should be happy to see these abilities nerfed and then our overall damage buffed. It's just right now it's kind of hard to see, like you can just see like damage going down and you're not happy about it. But I think that these changes are going to be overall good for the spec. And I think it was said in the Discord that Touch of Karma's is like 35% of what it was in 8.1 of what it was in live servers right now, which is good. I mean, I commonly when I do raid fights, Touch of Karma and Touch of Death are like near the top of my list, and I think that's not great. I'm glad that they're changing that. But anyway, I've been rambling here. Let's move on to the talents. So there's some talent changes. Touch of Karma can now redirect. So they changed Good Karma and they changed Rushing Jadewind. These are the talent changes. So Touch of Karma now heals you. 100% of the damage redirected by Touch of Karma also heals you. And Rushing Jadewind no longer costs energy. It costs 1 chi. It lasts 6 seconds with a 6-second cooldown. So the duration and the cooldown of Rushing Jadewind are the same. Now when I tested, so let's talk about these changes. When I tested the new Jadewind, it wasn't working properly with Serenity, which means the cooldown wasn't being reduced. And it wasn't counting our mastery, so you couldn't do, like, for example, Blackout Kick, Rushing Jadewind, Blackout Kick, because that second Blackout Kick would not get the mastery benefit. If they iron out this, I think it could be okay. I think a lot of people are happy that it doesn't cost energy anymore, myself included. But personally, I'm going to go off a little rant here, is that I just think that they're reverting back to an old design of Rushing Jadewind, and I don't think that it's good. Because this ability scales so strangely with haste. Because it's weird. It gets better with haste, but it overall makes you spend more resources, which kind of makes it worse with haste. I don't know if that's good. Personally, I'm just kind of, I have a grudge against Jadewind. I really wish they would just give us a new talent or a new ability that felt fresh, so I wouldn't go with any previous reservations about this ability. I want to see something new in this row. I think I'm just tired of Jadewind, and I think no matter how they rework it, I'm just not, it might be good, but I would like to see something more. It doesn't excite me, you know? But in terms of tuning, end of rant, in terms of tuning, Jadewind is actually weaker than it is on live servers, because it costs 1 chi, and 1 chi is about 25 energy, considering Tiger Palm generates 2 chi, and then that's half of that. Plus 50 energy, and it's half of that, so 25 energy. It might be a bit less with Chi Burst and all this stuff, but it's about 25 energy. And Jadewind cost 18 energy. The old Jadewind cost 18 energy when you cast it for 6 seconds. and now it costs 25. It's kind of a nerf in the damage. The damage didn't go up, it's just the same, so yeah. But go to talk to the conclusion. So I would say the changes are a step in the right direction, but I'll say that they're baby steps. Blizzard seems like they're being very careful with the damage we're doing, the AoE damage we're doing. And they just are being careful with that. I think we need more drastic changes in order to regain popularity and faith in the community. Mainly this ties to Mythic Plus. We're not really that well wanted in Mythic Plus. It's partially because we don't bring the Majesty buff and our damage is kind of low right now. I think we need like some kind of new thing for people to be really like happy to play it again or excited to play it again. I know me personally, I'd love to see some new talents or some new twists on talents. The new Jadewind does not excite me. It's just an old iteration of Jadewind. I don't like that. I hope that they do something more with it. I would argue the same thing with Good Karma. We went from having a DPS increasing talent in a utility row to having a defensive talent in a utility row. Still not great, I would say. They could give Windwalker some utility that they don't have right now. Like I think I've given this a bunch of suggestions myself. One of which I like the most is if Fury now applies to Sable, you know, the slow that we have. But you know, I would say in the end, Windwalker is still viable. And I would just wait for further tuning. More than likely, they're going to buff us more than we are right now. We are weaker than we are on live. I'm sure they're going to buff us. I hope they buff us. But anyway, thanks for watching. I will be back next patch. I will update this video. I will update if anything changes here. Make sure to check out the feedback thing I put on the official forums. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Later.